Hi, this is my little friend Lola. She is 11 months old, and she doesn't mind getting her hair done, do you? She's a very good girl. We're going to talk about brushes and combing, and I'm going to give you some tips and techniques on how to reach our goal, which is to avoid hair sticking together. That's what happens when hair sticks together, is they form mats. Here are some of the equipment choices that I like. My most commonly used piece of equipment is called a slicker brush. It's any brush that has short, curved teeth that is made to pull out curls, and it's made to pull out this soft shedding coat or the soft undercoat, but it's really made to separate the hairs. That's its principal job. This type of brush, for instance, is called a pin brush. It's not a very good brush for pulling out hair. It's a really great brush to give a nice massage and to teach our dogs to enjoy being brushed. I like to use this on my little baby puppies when they're 3 weeks old, 4 weeks old, 5 weeks old, and just it's just a nice soft brush. So it's not really pulling their hair. But it is not a good brush to try to maintain your Lagotto coat with. The other brush that I rely on a lot is this really interesting looking German brush called the Lapouche. And the reason it's different is these teeth are very hard, very stiff. So they mounted it on a back that actually moves. And that way, when you're brushing really thick areas, right, the brush does the work without you having to gouge the dog. So notice I'm still holding the brush really lightly in my hand. And yet, because those teeth are so strong and hard, it's able to penetrate the density of her coat and get all the way down to the skin without me having to brush her too hard. There is a bad side effect of brushing too hard. It's called brush burn. If you're not careful when you brush, you can abrade their skin in places like the elbow, the tops of the toes, her knee here, behind her ear. If we brush too hard over an area that sticks out, it's really easy to abrade their skin. And that's why it's so important to listen to your dog. If the dog is saying, ow, it's hurting, I really believe that dogs don't make that sort of thing up. So we try to brush in a way that we hold the brush really lightly. You can go down in this direction. You can turn around and go backwards from the bottom up. And remember, the goal is to separate the hairs. Now, I bet you're wondering by now, why is she wet? I've found in all of my years of experience that working on a damp coat is so much easier. The brush and the comb moves through the coat with a lot more efficiency. It doesn't seem to drag and snarl. So I really prefer to work on a clean, damp coat. So what I did was washed her and then let her air dry for about a half an hour and then put her up on the table. And now I'm going to brush and comb to make sure that she doesn't have any knots in her. You see, I like to listen to the brush too. You can learn a lot. You can tell what's going on with the coat if you listen to the brush. For instance, this part right here is sort of a little thick. Listen to the noise that the brush makes. Sort of a little crunchy sound, right? Versus I hope that's clear. Sort of a sharp pulling sound versus a really soft sound where it just goes through. So brushing a damp dog is one of the biggest tips that I can share with you. I'm not sure why, but the grooming industry is still divided over whether or not dogs are easier to brush when they're damp or when they're dry. But I'm pretty sure that at this point in my career, I have brushed hundreds of thousands of dogs, and that I vote that damp dogs are easier to brush and comb. Very good. You were such a good girl. Now I'm going to check her with a comb. Because here's the thing, you can brush over the top of the coat and feel like you've done a really good job. You've brushed over the whole dog, right? She's looking really good. But until you actually check your work with a comb, you can't make sure that all the tangles are out. This hair is a little wet here, so the comb's not going through real easy, but it's doing okay. So I've got the teeth of the comb right down to her skin. And you can see I'm just able to work it right through there. Same as with her legs. If I get to a place where it's a little snarled, you know, I just want to work that out. Because when hairs start sticking together, they form a little club. And they 2 or 3 stick together, and then they invite some other people to get up with them, and then those stick together, and before you know it, you've got a mat party. So the comb is going through her very nicely, even though she's still damp. Now here's a little thick spot. See where there's a little hair coming out of the comb? So I'm just going to come back and focus on that area. Yeah. And then now it's going through right very easily. So in review, what I like to do is to bathe my dog, put on a nice conditioner that will help to keep the coat from getting static. It repels dirt, and it makes the coat slick. It has some natural botanicals in it that help the coat. It sort of lubricates the coat, and it makes the equipment easier to work with. So I bathe them, condition them, towel them dry, and then I let them run around the house and air dry for about 30 or 45 minutes. Then when they're about this damp, put them up on the table, and then brush first, and then follow up with the comb to make sure that your comb will go through all of the places. Even those sneaky hiding places like in the armpits, inside of the legs, the tail, the base of the tail, those are the places that are most likely to knot.